and welcome to Masked Monologues, the anonymous podcast for creators. Today, I'm joined by Gregory Cohen, the founder of Discourse Sound. Gregory, would you to briefly introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about where you came from and what initially inspired you to pursue this label.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here. This is a wonderful opportunity to be on this podcast. It's new for me and I'm a new entrepreneur. So I grew up in many different places and cities. I'm originally from Florida, believe it or not, but I was in
Florida.
Toronto.
It's a nice place. I've been there. My parents have a place there.
I'm from Toronto, but I grew up in Florida and I've lived in many cities. I've lived in Halifax. I've lived in Ottawa. I've lived in many cities, but now I'm based in Edmonton, Alberta now. Yes. And that's where I'm stably staying now. This new label, though, it's very new. I'm founding a record label and I'm making contacts as much as I can. I could relocate, but I have very strong goals and purposes with this. And it can be a struggle to get certain things and to push certain boundaries that very rarely get talked about. And that was the inspiration of this record label. It wasn't so much for profit and business. That is a factor as well, for sure. I just need to break through social barriers that are systemically in place that get in the way of people being able to talk about or sing about or rap about various things. So that inspired the entrepreneurship here. And I got this idea relatively recently, and I never thought of taking full control of this. I always wanted to network with people or meet this person here or go there and that kind of thing. But just recently, I felt like taking full control and doing the entire project myself, meeting people myself, sharing.
Getting yourself out there.
Yeah. And doing the mechanics of the record label process and that kind of thing myself. Whereas previously, I always wanted to tag along or meet famous people or whatever. But I can do both. And I can
No, it's an amazing opportunity to show the work that you've been doing and share it with other people and have them give you feedback and also just expand your community.
Yeah, for sure. And just yesterday, for instance, I did so much networking. I did multiple video meetings. I was connecting with hundreds of different people on different websites and apps and so on. And I'm reaching out there. Also, I was working on the production of one new first song for this label, and I plan on.
I believe you sent me a little tidbit of it. I got a chance.
I did. It's secret for now, but it's being worked on still, and the audience will be able to listen to that and to future songs as well. And I really want to push boundaries, and I'm somewhat following in the steps that certain artists have already done, but I want to do what they did and amplify it 300 times over so that it's something else altogether. But there is certain music that does push certain boundaries slightly, very slightly, but I want to go for more.
All the way.
Yes, for sure. And yes, so if you have any specific questions as to the details, then we can totally get into that. But I'm very passionate on the basic foundation and goals of this, and I really want to see it. I really want to have this go as far as possible. And
you were Sorry, I was looking through your website and I saw that you were influenced by hip hop culture and you were talking about hip hop was authentic. It wasn't afraid to be who it is. And it wasn't arrogant in a sense or just stuck up. Can you talk more about hip hop and the influence of it on your label?
Yeah, for sure. So there's a certain humility there compared with more classical forms of music that, like Frank Sinatra or something. Not that he's bad, but hip hop is more.
It's more lenient as to what.
It's more lenient, more broad, more widely extensive, more embracive. It allows for different things. Back in the day, music was very structured in terms of lyrical content, so not that much.
Classical music.
Classical music even more, but I'm thinking more so like 1950s, 1940s, 1930s. There was Elvis and blue suede shoes and that kind of thing. He was pushing boundaries himself. But if you look at the lyrical content, a lot of the old school lyrical content, like jazz, various things, there was either no content or it was just very superficial and nonsensical, like doo-wop, sounds like that. It's not the communication there is not so much in terms of thoughts and words.
It was writing more of the melody component out of the.
Yes, it was emphasizing more of the melody component.
And the message.
Yeah, the melody component was more so what was being brought forth versus a message that, tried to push things.
So like impact or connects with people.
Yeah. And Eminem is obviously very good at storytelling and creating complex scenarios and that kind of thing. There is a big difference between rap lyrics and some songs from 70 years ago, say, in terms of what they're capable. Yeah, the contents of them, the messages, what they're capable of expressing, that kind of thing. But it could just go farther, and music would be the best way of desensitizing certain areas that it's really hard to have conversations about, and
just open up the floor for everyone.
Yeah, make things fluid, and then from there could actually be a discourse, conversation, people actually talking about things. But there has to be this sense of, because if people are fixed, they can't really
bigoted.
Yeah, sure. If people are bigoted or are mentally fixed, they can't really have fluid thoughts or conversations, and so there needs to be a fluidity in a sense. There has to be the absence. Yes, but there has to be the absence of rigidity and constantly running away from the ability to talk or think about certain things. And if people can't think about things, then that can be a big problem. I'm sure back 150 or 200
people are able to question things or apply their own perspectives to different topics, then what are you other than a robot?
Yeah, 200 years ago or 150 years ago, even Abraham Lincoln was staunchly racist. If you see things he said, and there wasn't fluidity to give rights to Black people, for instance. Mm-hmm. That conception, socially or interpersonally, that wouldn't really have flown very well, at least in certain circles, the South and that kind of thing. But even Abraham Lincoln, he was very much against the Blacks having the same rights or being treated the same way or that kind of thing. If you read what he said, he was very much against that ideologically, personally. He was against that. Yeah, so this label isn't necessarily about racism or non-racism or that kind of thing. People can...
From what I understand, it's more about pushing barriers and then allowing people to express themselves, whatever that may be.
Yes. And I've certainly faced a lot of barriers in terms of having the ability in practice to be able to have reasonable conversations with people just due to the fact that they turn into a brick wall. They metaphorically nod their head, and they don't disagree, but they don't know how to think about certain things at all. And then that's just really bad, because then are they genuine? And it's, so the discourse
adding to the conversation.
Yeah, the discourse is not wide. And so that's why I wanted there to be wide discourse sound. And this is a very personal thing that I deal with in my life, because I feel I do have a mechanical free speech that can speak. Nobody's censoring me or killing me or that kind of thing. But in terms of being able to have real conversation, that can be really hindered.
I feel as though some of it is due to the fact that people are unable to express themselves coherently. They don't know how to speak. They don't know how to project their thoughts and have a fluid conversation.
Yeah, so I could go in, and that's a very good point. And I could go into this for hours and hours. Yes. I could spend days on this particular point that you just brought up.
Maybe
sure.
The topic.
Sure.
Heard that you've met some influential individuals in the music scene.
Yeah.
It's Virginia the Biggest. Do you mind elaborating on that and how it influenced you?
Yeah, so he dated my cousin back in the day, and I've been trying to get a hold of him, but I messaged him and so on, but he hasn't come back to me. Yeah, but I've met him at family gatherings and stuff. He's pretty cool. He plays on the radio all the time in Canada. Yes. But not so much in other countries. He would rarely play on the radio in the US or the UK or other countries. But here, I've heard him in Vancouver. I've heard him in Toronto. I've heard him in so many cities. He plays all the time here. And
I love that.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And he's gone platinum. And so I know for a fact that one of his songs was about my cousin, which is interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, because they were dating, but they broke up, though, I think, because I saw her on Facebook and she was dating some other guy. I think he was Asian. I don't even know, to be honest, but some other guy. And so I, and then I have certain other connections that I shouldn't necessarily speak about that publicly because it's low key private.
Right.
But I have had some connections in a sense, and that's pretty cool. But I'm budding with this. I'm just starting brand new with this. I want to meet as many people as possible. My goals are high. Yeah. So I want to have the label.
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. So I want to have the label for this entire category of things. It might just be rap, or it could be multi-genre, or I could have the multiple labels for this. But
talk about that for a second. On your website, you say that you're looking for artists who exude confidence as part of their being. Can you elaborate on what you mean by this? Because this is a little vague, and I just wanted to narrow it down for listeners who are interested in your label.
So the thing is, when you have certain music artists like Drake or like Rick Ross or Wiz Khalifa, say, they seem just very confident and very just what they say is not like a conviction. Yeah, they have a conviction, and what they say is not encumbered by doubts or whatever. It's just very
it's
like straightforward.
Honest. It's truth, right? It's authentic.
Yeah, but it's also very powerful, and that kind of powerful speaking manner is like something that's rare because someone could rap or something, but they could seem very put down or like beta male, quote unquote.
Yeah,
I don't really like that terminology, like alpha, beta, but
and alpha. Yes.
Yeah, but some people can think that they're second or that they're put down or whatever. But
it's like an inner confidence that you know exactly what you want to say, and you know how to convey it to others.
Yes, and with this label, it's not just for one group or religion or this or that.
You're open
to for sure. Like,
or any artists who feel as though they resonate with your label, with your brand.
Yes, it's for any people, but I'm trying to push certain specific boundaries that might touch on religion and that kind of thing. But it's just like if you're willing to challenge the status quo, like break up what's going on right now.
Yes,
that would be wonderful. It's certain things that are not talked about have to do with the field of mental health, for instance, and that's a very broad
topic.
Broad subject or category, but there's some things in that field that just don't get talked about clearly, and there's a lot of misconceptions and confusions, and there's no secrecy there in any sense. And so my first song is going to be called No Secrecy, and I'm trying to dispel certain blatant misconceptions about
when it comes to certain things of mental health or other broad topics in general.
Yeah.
People who may not be as informed as they perceive they are. You need to do some more research, some more digging onto that topic and learn more about it. So that might be a factor that plays into all of these. You have all these sources coming at you, news articles, different perspectives, and it's just filtering through that information. And then how do you find truth?
Sure. However, one thing is going back to what I was saying before. And my website talks about this quite a bit and it's extreme actually on my website, to be honest, but it's good. It's very direct and candid. But some people want to obsessively, they'll squirm. Some people want to cling on to false information or anything that makes certain things seem negative or in a negative light. Just because they don't, go on.
It's almost as if they associate it with their identity, their beliefs, and that's why it's so hard to part with.
Yeah, but the thing is, one thing about this label is I really don't want relativism. I want strong, defiant, universal statements that are applicable for all cases, not like beliefs or my thoughts or my this or my that. To say a very strong belief a strong vantage point, rather, it would have to be applicable for all persons, for all people. And that kind of thing can be quite rare in certain contexts. And relativism kills any kind of possibility for science, any kind of possibility for forward progress, any kind of possibility for group understandings. It kills that. So there has to be absolute consensus, and people have to be able to internalize things without thinking that one field or that this is bad or wrong or whatever, whether it's in like religion or science or mental health or this or that. And it's not even just from disinformation or misinformation or malinformation. It's some people, yeah, they have it as their identity, or they have it as how they live and do things, to have these weird ideas. And then other people think those things too, and they just live with that, but they don't really defiantly fight back. And that's really hard to find. It's super hard. I'm searching for people that
someone who are willing to go against the grain, against the status quo.
Yes, that's very hard to find. It's super hard, and I'm struggling, frankly, but I'm looking for that, and that's why I started this. I got to do things big scale and have big goals to be able to have the identity such that I find the right people, I get things made, and I have to do everything in my power to forward this cause, because because the other day, for instance, I talk about this one thing, and then this person's texting back, and they're so obsessed with having misconceptions. I can't even dispel them that well.
Yes.
I do dispel them, and he's fine with me clarifying things for him. He's fine with that, but he doesn't internalize it, and he's being constantly divisive, constantly, without being, oh, I'm so sorry, my conception was factually wrong, and from a factual standpoint, that's not correct, so I should be more unifying. And and this guy was in a group that preaches unity and togetherness and these good moral values. Yet he was so obsessed with being divisive in this case.
He could only see life through his lens. He was unable to put himself in another person's shoes. Is that what you're trying?
That's part of it. But going back to the universalistic thing, I'm not even caring about my own shoes, right? I'm caring about the universalistic way of looking at things, and people should be treated well universalistically too. But there are some facts that are objectively true, and it's hard for some people to be able to process certain facts. And I don't fully understand how that is, but I have to push forward. And then if I get big here, that would lead to a market influence in society. I have potentially certain big connections now, and I can see how far things go.
Now, what I love about you is that your label is grounded by a mission, and that always enables you to be motivated during those times where it's a little difficult and where you face challenges, because starting out as a new record label, there's a lot of challenges you're going to incur. Do you have any ideas as to what challenges you believe that you'll incur and what your plans are to overcome them?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so my biggest challenges are, the first thing I'm looking for now is trying to find people who are indeed willing to fight against the status quo, the system, the lack of conversation, the talking to a wall phenomenon or whatever. And that, quite candidly and frankly, could be rather hard. So finding people who are saying that they're interested or whatever, but there might just be a lot of superficiality there. So firstly, I want to find the raw talent. Then, and it could be a small number of people, it could be 5 or 3 or 30 or whatever, but I want to find raw talent who's willing to challenge things. Then I would have to work on the logistics, the legal counsel, the various factors for
marketing,
like distribution, all those factors. I could appoint people to certain roles.
And currently you're in the networking stages of your label. So you're just looking for people who might be able to help you with the legal aspects of it, the marketing aspects of it, and then also artists like singers, songwriters, musicians, and build up your label. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's fully correct. I'm just beginning with this now, the very first stages of it. And I'm networking various ways, like in person, like online, doing all kinds of interesting things. I met this guy who he's been in contact with DJ Khaled through Snapchat and stuff, and he's very well networked and he's wealthy. And that was in person. We met in Boston Pizza, and Boston Pizza is actually local to the very city. It was founded here where I'm living, and then it's grew from one location to a full franchise chain to 395 stores in the 3 countries. So that's a good example of like entrepreneurship and growth and prosperity,
expansion.
Yes, growing and expanding outward and having a dream. Like that guy didn't even
with a small seed, and then that seed grow into
blooms outward. Yeah, for sure. And that guy didn't even go to Boston, to my understanding, but Boston was this place that he wanted to visit. So that was his dream, and he founded it here locally, and then it grew and grew, and it became this big entrepreneurship, big business venture, and it's a large company now in 3 countries.
No, that's what I love about this podcast for creators, because it's open to entrepreneurs, it's open to musicians, it's open to artists, and it's basically to see other people grow, because everyone has an idea. Everyone wants to add something to the world and have a purpose, and it's great to see people flourish.
Yeah, for sure. And growth has always been in my background growing up. And that was a big value. And I grew up in Florida. So obviously, there's the American dream, and everyone talks about that. And one thing, too, is it's good to find people who are able to feel passion and to be emotional. However, that might be too much for people sometimes. But a decent middle ground could simply be being able to talk about subject matters without having to go into super controversial territories. Some people are afraid of this or that or whatever, and that's fine in some ways, but it's a good middle ground is simply talking about
be well informed and educated before you form your own opinion on something. I believe that you have to go the dirty work, you have to do the digging, read the articles before you say, oh, I don't like that, or I don't believe in that. Once you've done that and you still feel as though it's not for you, then it's not for you. But I believe everything has a chance and deserves a chance to be looked at, and it's valid. It just might not be applicable to your life.
See, that kind of like relativism, I don't really like. If something I value or cherish is not good, then it should be gotten rid of. I value like proper, full, complete speech, and not this good for me, good for you kind of thing. And one major problem is that people simply don't even opine or think of opinions on the things that they or use or care about so much. And that's bad. And there's like the biggest
seeking more universal truth.
Yeah. I'm seeking more universal truths and facts and so on. But sometimes people can think things are relative when they're not. And when there should be open and honest and candid conversation about things and science. I very much believe in the scientific method and process. And I really very much want that to be like a real thing fully. But like sometimes there can't even be science because people are so not willing to have any kind of consensus or like unity with each other. And that kind of divisiveness is horrid. Like it messes up people's lives, and it wrecks things and causes all kinds of trouble. And that's like the root of so much trouble in the world. Lack of unity and lack of like actual speech or discourse. So like with this, I'm like trying to loosen things and get the conversation more wide. And it's fine if people squirm or are afraid. I want to push forward in spite of anything. I don't care if people go erratic or whatever because of this. I need to actually have a universal conversation. And it's not about being right or wrong. It's about actually being able to speak humbly and be able to form a state of consensus or science or unity. And if you look at the things on my website and my Instagram and so on, you guys will find that I'm penetrating or going through some very hardcore stuff that can be controversial. But I'm not being like Rick Ross or someone who's only dabbled in these things. I'm actually going all the way to challenge or criticize like institutions in mental health or in health in general or in like biotech or biology or various fields where there should be conversations, but there isn't current conversations that much for no reason. And it's not doing a research or seeing false things or this thing or that thing. It's about personally being willing to have real, honest talks about things. And that's very much lacking.
Yes.
And so music, I think, would be a very
communicate that.
Yeah, because it's not. It's very.
It's not an art. It's a form of
art.
Art is, but it's also to interpretation, and people are drawn to art.
Yes, for sure. But it's also not threatening. Like it's like it's not being like, I'm going to make you go bankrupt and make you lose your job and you can't support your kids. And you're going to be proven wrong and your reputation is going to be wrecked if you talk about this. No, art is just being put out there. It's very grassroots. It gets shared by people texting each other and that kind of thing. It's not in your face killing you or attacking you. So if there is, say, yeah, so someone in science or whatever, they could see something and they could still be in the same wave as it, even if it could harm them, but it would be more low key. It's not like directly challenging their money or their power or their this or their that. It's just like music. And that could very grassrootsly change people's mindsets and make people grassroots want to fight against wrongnesses, whether it's right wing or left wing or anything.
Right.
There are serious wrongnesses and very few people are fighting back.
Okay, so I'm going to cut you off right here. I think we're going to start wrapping up. I want to let the audience know where they can find you and if it's best to follow you on your Instagram or if you have a TikTok or a YouTube channel or go to your site. What is the best way of reaching you?
Yes. Okay. So thank you guys so much for listening to this podcast. There's much, much more clear detail on my website, which is widediscoursesound.com. So the word discourse is DISCOURSE. So widediscoursesound.com. And all the links are on the bottom. So there's an email, my Gmail, which is widediscoursesound@gmail.com. There's WDS Records for Discord. There's Facebook, LinkedIn.
And I'll add them.
My Instagram, my X.
On the podcast. So if you don't remember them, you can just click the links.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I have an Instagram, my handle is Wide Discourse Sound there too. So I'm fairly new for that, but I'm growing pretty fast. Like I'm already following a bunch of people who have a bunch of followers and messages and so on. Yeah, but I'm trying to get the word out there through many different means and sources. And I'm using a Vamper as well, which is very good and helpful. I just found it recently. Yes.
Vamper is an amazing app for music.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I can message like 100 people every day. It's fantastic. They're not sponsoring me, but it's a very good app. Yeah, shout out. Sure. Yeah, so I have 14 followers now on my Instagram. So it's growing from zero like yesterday.
Yes. For starting to go, that is great.
Yeah, yesterday I had like 0 people because I'm like very new for this. So in 1 week it could have 200 or something or 300. But I'm trying to go as fast as possible with this and really push things. I'm making a new song right now too, and it's pretty good. And that's going to be on my website.
Yeah, can they find it on your website?
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be on my website. It's going to be on all my platforms. I'm going to have like a YouTube as well. I'm going to have like iTunes, I'm sure, and like various other platforms for getting people out there, like the distribution process, the mechanics of
industry.
Yes, and my label and that kind of thing. But I'm going to be making more platforms very soon too. But this new song was like a test in a sense, but I want to see if that's one thing, but I want to see if certain things that are never challenged or stated can actually be said. It's like it's like a test for life, like to see if like communication is even possible. So I'm doing that and it's being worked on. Like a friend is like working on it now and he's very talented. So that should be on my site like tomorrow probably. And then I'm going to share that a lot. And then I'm going to take the very first steps with this, but things are going to go well and I'm going to push boundaries and see what happens. So thank you so much for having me. Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on this episode of Mass Monologues. If you want to share this with a friend or you enjoyed the episode, please check out Gregory's platforms and channels and also follow us. I guess I'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you. Bye.
Hear the stories they all say.